All right, welcome everyone. Happy Friday. We are so glad you're here. We've missed you the last few months. We've been taking a minute for summer vacation here in the Northern Hemisphere, but ready to get back to it to First Friday. We have an incredible session for you that is going to be jam-packed. So hopefully you're ready to take some notes on Friday. I'm not sure what you're drinking, but you could probably guess what's in my cup. But I am definitely Team Pumpkin Spice, even in September, for some of you. So glad you're here. My name's Allison Michaels. I'm a part of the product group with Viva Engage team, and I'm joined by two of my colleagues who will introduce themselves in a minute. But before we get started, we have a couple of things that we want to ask you, we want to tell you about, we want to share with you in case you've missed it. Because I don't know about you, but this summer has been crazy for me and my family. So we wanted to kind of kick off a little bit with some updates about where we'll be and what's coming up next before we hand it over to John. But so glad to see so many familiar faces in the chat. Please use the chat throughout the presentation as well as the Q&A. If you guys can see the Q&A across the top, love to put your questions in there. I know with a group of communicators, y'all are chatty, and sometimes it's really hard to pull out the questions that you want John to answer throughout the presentation. So put your questions across the top. And then before we get too far in, will you just throw a little bit of a reaction? Tell me how you're feeling today. Make sure that you remember where the reactions are versus the hand raise. Do you guys remember where they are? Okay, good. Awesome. Lots of hearts, lots of clapping. Yeah, I hope lots of smiles today too. So good to see so many of you. All right, so we are so excited. In October, we're actually not going to have First Friday because a few of us are actually going to be in person in Seattle at Microsoft headquarters for the Reagan Conference. So if you are joining us in October at the Reagan Conference, we would love to see you in person. Myself and Sarah Lundy and Laurel will actually be there in person. Drop us a note in the chat if you'll be there too. If you want to join us or join and get more information from industry leaders beyond just the Microsoft communication team, but from across all different industries, we would love to see you there in Redmond in the middle of October, October 14th through 16th. So let us know if you're coming or if you'll be there. All right. First activity is in the chat. Let us know, is this your first Friday or have you been before? And if you haven't been here before and this is your very first Friday, we have a great lineup and playlist of previous sessions that we would love to share with you. If you're like, this was really interesting, I need to go more, I need to kind of go at my own pace, or what did they say? Laurel will drop the link in the chat for you to save for later, but we've had some incredible sessions behind the scenes. We've deep dive into beyond the basics for prompting for communicators, some really visionary things from Steve Clayton as well, and some really incredible practical tips from Sarah and Laura too. So if you've missed any of those, or if this is your first Friday and want to catch up with where we've been, we would love to see you there. And then the last thing I will share, and then we're going to do a quick poll, is save the date. So I know a few of you, because I see your names, were with us in Las Vegas earlier this year, but I want you to save the date already. We're already talking about 2026. We had a specific communications track this past year. I'm not sure exactly what it's going to look like next year, but you're not going to want to miss it. If you want to join the Microsoft team, we will be in Orlando this year. The date has kind of shifted up earlier, hopefully with you all who that's graduation, before graduation season, but 21st of April, that week in Orlando, Florida. So we would love to see you there. We had a comms meetup and it was just a lot of fun. And a lot of really great opportunities to kind of dig in and learn more, of course, about AI and lots of other things going on in the Microsoft world. All right, we've got a quick poll that we want to see about what is your level, or where are you feeling you are currently at with AI at the moment on this Friday morning or afternoon. Go ahead and click on and see, tell us, where are you? novice, beginner, intermediate, advanced, expert. And if you click expert, we might be tapping on your shoulder to come present in a couple months. So yeah, great. All right, lots of really good mix. If you haven't submitted, feel free to. And then the last resource I want to leave you with, and I'll share this at the end too, is all of these resources that we'll share, including the PowerPoint presentations, as well as recordings and things like that, because I know you're going to ask us, where's the recording, or I need the presentation to reuse. We have them all on our Modern Employee Comms adoption site as well. So Laurel will pop that in, and that will be a great place and kind of the home for all of the new things coming out for comms and communications with Copilot, AI, and more. All right. I think that's all I have. I am so excited to introduce and pass it over to John Bates, who will introduce himself and take it away for the rest of the time. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, is that up? We're working? We're live? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Amazing energy. I mean, look at all these new people who are joining us for the first time. Those results are super interesting. And I've got to give a shout out to everyone that's joining us either at the very start of the day in the States. Thank you for joining us. Hope you did get a pumpkin spice latte in. Here in the UK, I haven't managed to find one yet, so I'm on good old instant coffee for today's shift at the end of the week on a Friday. So thank you to our British friends who are joining us at this time as well. So let's get things started. My name is John, and I've got the privilege of working at Microsoft in our sales and marketing organization. I've been here for about 2.5 years now. And in my day-to-day, I look after employee and executive communications for one of our sales presidents and his team, which covers about 20 or so, which covers just over 20 countries and a few thousand people. Today, it's my real pleasure to be here with you to talk about our favorite topic, communications in the era of AI and our role as communicators in it. What I'd like to share with you today is this notion of becoming frontier. Now, this is a buzzword and an expression that you're going to hear about a lot. Some of you may have heard about it already, but effectively, it means being AI first in everything that you do. But before we dive into the deck, I want us to flip the script and I want to give you another activity to do. Instead of us just showing you what AI is happening and what we're doing with AI at Microsoft, I would like you to tell me what you want AI to help you with. In the chat, I would love for you to type up a challenge in your team, a process that's a bit too slow, or a conversation that needs a bit more clarity. You'll have a bit of time to do this, as we'll shortly dive into AI transformation and how this is shaking out at Microsoft. But time permitting at the end, we're going to do a demo and we're going to build an agent live based on someone's use case. So in the chat, have a go at typing this up, and we're going to come back to this later. So before we explore what being frontier is for communicators at Microsoft, I think it's important we look at the context of the world of work that we find ourselves in. These are our peers after all, and it's the same environment and the same challenges that we are experiencing as well. So you probably won't be surprised to know that at Microsoft, we love our data. And we're fortunate to have a really unique vantage point on the world of work. Just this year, we looked at survey data from about 31,000 workers across 31 countries, LinkedIn labor market trends, and trillions of Microsoft 365 productivity signals. And what we found was astounding in how the world of work is changing in the era of AI. And there are 3 findings which really stand out. The first, and is probably unsurprising to everyone on this call, is that we are experiencing a capacity gap. 80% of employees and leaders globally are saying they just don't have enough time or energy to do their jobs. And at the same time, 53% of leaders are saying that productivity needs to rise. And we felt this tension in our own communications team. We ran a survey, I think last year, about how we are feeling as a team. And the results showed that 70% of us are suffering from meeting overload, 86% from information overload, and 80% of us are just struggling to find the time to focus every day. Now, here's a really scary number, and I think it's something that everyone can relate to. In all the data that Microsoft looked at, it looks like we're being interrupted up to 275 times a day. That's by meetings, by emails, by Teams chats, and it works out at around every 2 minutes during working hours. So what's the answer? Well, most leaders around the world, what they're thinking about is investment in digital labor, another word for agents. And this is what's going to help us to expand that workforce capacity in the next 12 to 18 months. And here's what this journey could look like. While every company's experience is going to be different, we see this journey playing out in 3 phases, possibly simultaneously. In the first phase, if you're experimenting with Copilot Chat, you could probably relate to this today. AI is acting as an assistant, helping you to do the same work better and faster. Think of Copilot in chat, think of Copilot in Word, or just helping you to write that email or that announcement. In phase 2, agents are joining teams as digital colleagues, taking on specific tasks, for instance, translation, or maybe even helping you to predict what kind of questions you might get from a journalist in the media. And then in phase 3, people are setting direction for agents that run entire business processes and workflows, checking in as needed. Maybe this is an agent that explains your corporate strategy or an onboarding agent. In all of these scenarios, the point is that human work isn't replaced, it's being elevated by this technology. And this is really what the frontier firm looks like. Intelligence on tap, new ways to scale, and for us in communications, using this technology to amplify and accelerate the work that we're doing. So that's the context. Let's start to explore how this is happening in practice with some examples of AI transformation here at Microsoft. Now, in our business, we're really privileged to see thousands of AI projects, and internally, we've had the space and the culture to think about how we can use AI to help all of our teams, including communications. And it looks like the projects that are delivering the real value and the measurable, scalable transformation are the ones that fall into these 4 categories. These are what we've described as pillars of AI transformation, and they're how we're helping at Microsoft organizations of all different kinds to prioritize, validate, and scale the efforts of AI. So moving from the left to right, the first is all about enriching employee experiences, and that's all about freeing people from the mundane so they can focus on the meaningful. The second, reinventing customer engagement. It's all about how we can create more personal, more scalable, and self-service experiences. Third is reshaping business processes. How can we automate workflows or optimize operations or think about how we did a process in a different way? And finally, bending the curve in innovation. How can we accelerate product development or unlock new ideas? And today we're here to talk about communications. So let's bring them to life by walking through each pillar and how that shows up in our communications work. Let's start with enriching employee experiences. We all know that generative AI is a transformative technology that offers huge potential for enhancing our own productivity and also our well-being too. So the question is, how can we enrich our own experience as communicators with AI? So here's the start of the demo. So let's pray to the demo gods together that this works. So what you should see here is an example of an agent which we created earlier this year called Comms Copilot. Our communications team at Microsoft has done a really fantastic job of sharing prompts and sharing really interesting use cases and tips of each other. And that's led to the creation of this agent, which has just disappeared. One moment, sorry. There we go. And you can see here some of the very common prompts that we use as communicators. And the beauty of this is that you don't need to know how to code. You can just go into Comms Copilot. You can just go into Copilot, write an agent and get going. So let's just have a quick look at some of these use cases. Maybe you need to write a social media post based on a story. Here's a quick prompt where you can just put in a link to a story and off you go. Or maybe you've got a journalist that you like to work with or you like to engage with from a certain publication. You could type in a prompt to ask, here's the story we're going to do. Could you give me some examples of questions they might ask based on their previous reporting? It's a really powerful way that we can save time, especially when we're faced with a blank page or we need to test and refine messages quickly. Now, while I'm here, I thought I would show you Microsoft Researcher, which is an agent available to many of our customers straight out of the box. It's fantastic at tackling complicated, multi-step research tasks and creating more detailed and competitive analysis and reports and thinking. I've used Researcher this year to prepare keynotes for the stakeholders that I spend a lot of time with. I've used it to write a cultural narrative based on Teams discussions or leadership discussions that I've been sitting in. And for the eagle-eyed amongst you, you've probably seen that I used it to help get the old noggin going for today's presentation. Next up is how we're using AI to reinvent customer engagement, or in our case, how we're using AI to connect with the diverse audiences and stakeholders that we serve. Now, I'm sure many of you already have been playing with AI to explore how you can create better content, be it articles, blog posts, visual assets, anything that you can to keep audiences more informed and engaged and interested. But reinventing customer engagement goes beyond just creation. AI is already helping us in communications to deliver more personalized experiences that enhance relevance, engagement, and conversation. So I want to change tack from agents for a little bit and showcase Viva Engage. So within Viva Engage, this is the primary channel that we're using for communications at Microsoft. And the first really super cool bit of information I can share today is that Engage data is now discoverable in Copilot, which means that you can find answers to questions and conversations that are happening in communities, and that can be surfaced in Copilot. Now, as an everyday user, the first thing which I think is super useful for our audiences is the Catch Me Up feature. Now, this often shows up as a prompt when someone logs in. And as you may have spotted as I logged onto this page here, you can just click a button on the bottom right-hand side, ask what people are talking about on Viva Engage, and you can get that summary. And it's great for that persona. Maybe you've got a frontline audience, or maybe someone who just doesn't come to Engage very often. It's a really quick and powerful way to get the highlights on what's happening across the business. Now, moving on to storylines, which is a great way to showcase leadership voices in your organization. What I really appreciate about this feature is the ability to catch up on important announcements from leaders and to also quickly summarize the topics that they're talking about at the click of a button. So what I did just here is I just clicked on the Copilot button next to a stakeholder who I support. And just like that, it's giving me a summary of the content. You could do this to look at the stakeholder storyline as a whole. You could delve deeper with some follow-up questions. It's a really great way for anyone to jump into a topic and find out what they need to know. And then, of course, there's the support for content too. We all know that enterprise social networks live and die on how engaging they are based on the content from leaders. So the use of AI here in the creating a post page is a really helpful way for you to nudge the leaders and stakeholders that you work with to get content live, to have that coach, or maybe even do a first draft before they come to you to get them using the communities and tools that we find really important for success on these channels. So Copilot here has just looked at almost 1 million files and several hundred messages to look at trust here for this topic I just put in. And from this kind of research that it's done here, there are then follow-up prompts to say, do you want me to create a post? And that can quickly be put into the content on the left-hand side. Now, there's one more use of AI Engage, which I think is super valuable, and it's the interaction and intersection of AI in analytics and sentiment. Now, at just the click of a button, I can find out what people are talking about and use this to help me be a better business partner in advising the leaders that I work with about what the hot button topics are, about what are the things that I need to talk about in my next newsletter, to tell people how they're feeling. It's a really great way to make me be more relevant and more of a better advisor to the people that I'm working with day to day. And that's ultimately what we want this technology to do, right? We want to be better business partners, and this technology is helping us to make it more easier to personalize, to moderate, and also to guide conversations in a way that feel more human, more strategic, and more inclusive in how we engage. So let's move on to our next pillar, reshaping business processes. While this often brings to mind operational functions like finance or supply chain, it's important to recognize that we are a profession with plenty of business processes, and all of these can be fundamentally transformed by AI. So what does that mean for us? In communications, this can really be a catalyst for rethinking about how we work. It could be that we could try and automate the repetitive. We could accelerate the creative things that we do, or just find and unlock new ways to engage. So going to my next example. To bring this pillar to life, I want to show a really powerful example of how we've reshaped business process around change communications with the MCAP strategy agent. Here we go. So MCAPS is our Microsoft customer partner and solutions organization. There's about 60,000 of us around the world, and we're all driving sales and support across AI, Microsoft 365, security, and cloud. And this year in July, as we closed the financial year, we had a pretty big strategic reset to align with market shifts, what customers are thinking, and also organizational priorities. So for us in communications, the challenge was clear. How do we communicate this scale of change with clarity, consistency, but also speed? And this is where the MCAP strategy agent comes in. Built entirely with no code in Copilot Studio, this agent draws knowledge from curated SharePoint sources and delivers contextual, accurate responses to help employees understand strategy, be it how territory is changing, or new solution plays, or how we're executing on our priorities. And as this is loading a bit slowly today, I'm going to do a Blue Peter. That's a reference for our UK friends on the call. And here's one I did earlier. And you can see here a summary of the solution area changes in our new financial year. It's put into a table, and this is really powerful for reshaping how we would normally consider communicating change. Sure, we still did the email cascade. We still had the leadership meetings. These are really, really important motions to do. But what we did was that we supplemented this with an interactive, on-demand agent that can give guidance, and I think most excitingly, scale our ability to support thousands of employees with conversations that they can use to navigate change without overwhelming our comms channels and the business partners that we work with during these moments of change. So let's move on to the final pillar here, bending the curve in innovation. Now, generative AI is accelerating innovation, and it's reshaping how much of this innovation also happens. Now, you've probably heard of the amazing work that's happening in healthcare, accelerating R&D, or even pushing new material sciences. But at the same time, that's all the flashy stuff, right? Innovation in AI is transforming everyday work. It's streamlining how we show up, how we're creative, and how we enable new personalized experiences that redefine how we connect, decide, and deliver. And whilst this is hugely exciting for every organization, it's equally important for us in communications too, because we can also innovate. And here's an example of that. To bring this pillar to life, I want to introduce to you AgentJ.ai. Created in Copilot Studio and using tools like Azure Speech Studio, this agent is built around the voice and vision of our Chief Commercial Officer, Judson Althoff. Now, what the team did here was that they went and found every single speech that Judson did. They went and found every single blog, every presentation, and they transformed it into this interactive AI-powered experience. Now, everyone in our global sales force can engage directly with Judson's thinking. They can ask questions. They can explore strategic priorities. They can get sales coaching from the top salesperson in our business. And they can hear guidance in Judson's own voice. It's consultative, it's contextual, and it's completely scalable. Perhaps more importantly, it's communications-led innovation. It reimagines how leadership communicates, how strategy is understood, and how teams can stay aligned, which is especially important in a really fast-changing, fast-moving sales organization like MCAPS. Let's have a play. So let's have a talk. If you can't hear Judson, Alison, or Laurel, please let me know. Let's have a listen. Hey, Judson, can you hear me?
Absolutely. Let's get down to it. Before we dive in.
Oh, no. Right, here we go. I did tell you, someone probably wasn't praying to the demo gods on this call. If you could please do that.
How much time do you have right now?
Here we go. So, Judson, could you tell me a bit about the AI transformation pillars? I'm talking to my good friends in Liberty Global today about how they could do more in telco about reshaping business processes. Like, how should I approach that conversation?
I can't make calls myself. Let me get us focused on that AI transformation framework and how it applies. If you'd like to dive in.
Okay, that has gone a little bit wrong. Like I said, it's a live demo. These things happen. I'm just going to try one more time because it is quite fun, but you probably get the gist. Hey, Judson, can you tell me a bit about bending the curve on innovation?
Super, I hear you. Just to kick us off, how much time do you have for coaching today, and what would you like to focus on?
A couple of minutes.
Got it. Bending the curve on innovation is a powerful concept. Let's dig into what that really means for you and your customers.
I'm talking to Liberty Global today, and they want to know a bit more about how they can apply it to their business and telco.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Can you tell me what Liberty Global shared about their business priorities or where they're looking to innovate?
Oh, they're looking to find new ways to make customers buy mobile bundles and put it with broadband across many different countries.
Thanks for that context. When you think about Liberty Global's challenge, what do you see as the...
There we go. I'm going to stop Judson there, but you get the gist. And Philip, as a good old colleague of mine on the call, I hope you definitely appreciate me still remembering some of the things that we worked on together. So that's just an example. And I think it's really a call to action about, what could your team build? AgentJ.ai was created with minimal code, right? The tools are available to everyone. The opportunity is real. Whether it's amplifying your leadership voice, scaling onboarding, or supporting change communications, AI gives us the chance to rethink about how we can engage and really innovate in new and different and more engaging ways. So now at the start, I promised that I would show you a quick demo on how I would create an agent. So Laurel and Alison, have you picked out a use case for me on an agent that we could build together?
We have a few. Before we go to that agent building, can you answer a few questions about the Judson agent? I don't know if you're the right person to know, but we had some really incredible questions kind of come in about the agent. Somebody asked, are you worried about deep fake issues? Is there any concerns about that?
Of course. And, it's really scary what you can do, right? With some of these tools, you can build a persona of someone over the weekend and do some pretty scary stuff in the security space. I think it all comes down to, what are the policies that your business has around responsible AI? So at the very start of any kind of AI transformation program, you may have this already. Like the advice of Microsoft is you really need to have almost like an AI ethics board. You've got priorities to, for your transformation in your business, but it's what are the things that we're comfortable with and the things that we're not comfortable with. But also, are we thinking about the way we use this technology so it aligns to regulation and also to ethics, which is going to be contextual based on your geography and where you are. Of course, we're worried about it. At Microsoft, trust is a priority for us in everything that we do. So there are some really strict controls in the things that we build, the things that we ship out to customers. And I would encourage your organization to go through the same motions when you're thinking about experiences like this.
Thank you so much. Another couple of questions, and this kind of might lead into the agent building, was how did you get all that information to build the agent? And what do you need to consider when you're building it? And then the other question about that was like, did you generate FAQs and then get approved responses to put into the agent? Yeah, how did the content get in there for Judson to kind of like come through with that? If you know the answer to that.
Approaches. Yeah. So when we go for the agent builder in a moment, one thing you can tell your agents to do is, I want you to look at everything, and I'll give the context on what I want you to look at within your organization, or I want you to look at specific SharePoint sites. So it could be like in a SharePoint site that you dump all of his word speeches, all of his PowerPoint presentations, all of his blogs, and that's where the knowledge comes from. So it's completely within your control and the controls of your organization on the information that gets put into an agent and the agents you create.
Great. One last question, and then Gina shared a great way that she used Agent J. So if you are in the chat, feel free to look at that. But she was kind of going back and forth with Judson and helped create kind of a newsletter with some of the customer pieces. So that's a great. Thanks for sharing that, Gina. But the last question is, do you track the questions that get asked of Judson, and then maybe as a comms team, like know where to do some more enforcement or kind of reinforcement? Or that, in my mind, I'm like, that sounds like a great idea for a future thing if you're not already doing that. Yeah.
I'm honestly not sure. That's a great question. I mean, a lot of these experiences, especially when you're creating agents, right, they're supposed to elevate and supplement the talent in your organization. So yeah, I think we need to go and think about that. I think there is probably a feedback loop for all of these things and how well the agents work. And in fact, just in my team at the moment, we've been building an agent to help our sales president know about customer engagements and visits that he needs to do. And the first agent was a bit pants, to be honest with you. Like, it was pulling in the wrong things.
Yeah.
It was, getting the customer names wrong. And it is really an iterative process in kind of improving and making these things better. But yeah, that kind of live feedback, I think we'll have to go and investigate that. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, that's a great question. All right. And a few of the different agents, and you can kind of pick your poison with this. One was about finding stories, either posted on the intranet or maybe even Viva Engage that maybe the comms team could take and amplify. Another was kind of looking or creating some sort of editorial calendar. The other one I really liked was creating IT customer messages that are engaging and in plain language. Brooke, if you haven't seen our very first Friday one, we had incredible folks from Microsoft Digital Comms who shared how they did that in their agent. So we'll link that up as well to do that. The other one was anything about audiences, creating change FAQs.
Yeah, I love that. Those are all awesome. I'm going to combine a few of them into one.
Okay, so, great. I know. I was like, there's too many to pick from.
There's too many to pick, but they're all great use cases, aren't they? So just to kind of demo how easy this is. So I'm now in Copilot, and I've just navigated to the create agent function, which your IT team and the governance within your organization can choose to turn on or off. And let's have a go at building an agent. Let's do a customer storytelling one. So I need some help in creating LinkedIn posts for my exec based on our customer stories, story or watching me type. We've all been on meetings like this, haven't we, where someone is typing in real time and you're just a bit like, ugh. So bear with me. So here is the site. I'm going to tell it, fingers crossed, to look at our customer story site. But then I'm also going to give some context on how I want that language to come across. So this is one of my favorite prompts. I'm going to put it in the chat here. This is what I use for my LinkedIn business partnering all the time. But essentially, it's a look at the page below, write me a 3-page paragraph, maximize kind of detail on the benefits and prioritize the numbers. My execs are a bit more formal. They don't really use emojis, but you can kind of play with that. And that would work in 365 chat, by the way. So I put in my initial prompt, and what's happening here now is that the agent builder is thinking about, what are the follow-up questions? What are the things that we need to kind of build upon in order to make this agent more relevant and more useful for what you're doing? So it's come up with some suggested prompts already. So draft a LinkedIn post, summarize a customer story where you insert the URL, 3-paragraph structure. I mean, some of these are a bit, in terms of actual prompts, but I quite like the summarized customer story or highlighting the benefits. That could be a really quick thing to reduce some friction in the process there. So let's do the next step, and let's see what it comes up with here.
I like those.
Yeah, I like the first three actually. I think the first three I could use straight away. These ones down here might have missed the mark a little bit. And again, it's just an example of making this iterative and kind of building upon it. Sure, let's give it that name. I think the next question that kind of follows up after this is that are there specific things that you want me to think about or to ignore? Which in theory, praying to the demo gods, this should come up next. Here we go. Are there specific requirements or preferences that you want for this process? So I'm just going to reiterate what I said earlier, right? I want a formal 3-paragraph structure. I don't want emojis and I don't want bullet points because, as we all know, LinkedIn doesn't work like that. And I copy and pasted the wrong thing. There you go. Let's look in the back end, right? So it does that. If you want to get a bit more granular, I think someone asked about SharePoint sources. It's in here, as I'm talking using natural language in the describe portion of that agent. In the back end, I can just go and configure the description. I can modify the instructions a bit more. And then I can also choose knowledge sources. This is where I think someone was talking about FAQs or SharePoint sites. This is where I could put in specific SharePoint sites that I've built or that I'm a member of with the right permissions. I can also add files. So maybe you've got like a huge narrative about the priorities and strategy of your business, or you want to do something around financial results. You can upload that here, and that can be a source for what you want the agent to use. You can also tell it if you want it to look at the web or not. You can use it to talk to other agents that you might have in your organization. And it's here that I can also get rid of some of those prompts that I thought weren't that helpful. So that should update there. And then it's really easy to get this added to the other agents that you may have and create it and share it with people that you work with in your team. And that's it. All with natural language. It is all about playing with it, reiterating on what you have, and then we're done.
I think that might have been the fastest time to creation for an agent that I've ever seen.
Go.
Great work. As it's still creating, let it simmer for a little bit. Congratulations.
Let it simmer, let it stew. I'll just have I got time I've got time to close, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions about the agent creation really quick before you move on. Somebody asked, is Copilot agents the same thing as agentic AI? And kind of like, how are we clarifying any of the differences, or what's maybe some plain language that you can give these communicators when they think about agents, capital A agents, or as you're thinking about this as well?
Gosh, we should put our marketing friends here, shouldn't we? I would position it as, when you're talking about agents, your organization, you can talk about the capability of agentic AI. I'm sure many of your people will be familiar with, AI. It's a great time saver. We're starting to experiment with it. But agentic AI is really it's the next step of starting to automate those business processes and kind of the tasks that you might need to do over and over and over again. That's agentic AI. And there's probably a Copilot could probably give me a better definition than that. So if someone could do that and put that in the chat, that'd be super helpful. Whereas Copilot agents is how I think about it's the product, right? It's the thing that Microsoft has put into the Copilot experience for you to create your own agents.
All right, wrap us up. And I got a couple of questions as we close out at the end. Feel free.
Excellent.
Thanks.
So look, we've explored today how AI is transforming the way we work. We've talked about some pillars that you can use as a playbook for AI transformation in your own organization. But that isn't it. Like having a playbook on its own, that's great. And even just to that last question, right, around definitions of like what's agentic AI and what's Copilot agents, it all brings us to that question of what is actually stopping us from becoming frontier organizations. And I think it's trust. Like the answer is always, I think, going to be trust, because no matter how, dazzling and excited we might all get about this technology, people aren't going to embrace it. They aren't going to use agentic AI. They aren't going to turn on Copilot agents. They're not going to give us as communicators the access to it unless they trust what it does. And it's going to be no surprise to everyone here that that trust right now is super fragile. You know, globally, in that report that I showed you at the start about the frontier firm, you know, we also referenced some research, I think, by Edelman and the Trust Barometer, which talked about how 49% of people around the world saying they trust AI technologies. And to our friends in the States, yeah, that's closer to 1/3. And while I'm sure many of us can, you know, think back to 15 years or so ago, where there was a lot of tech-inspired optimism in the space when we were talking about technology. Today, there is, rightly so, a ton of scrutiny which comes with, you know, what this stuff can do. And I think that's really my closing message. Really, is that's our role, and where our role as communicators becomes mission critical. Now, at Microsoft, we've learned, you know, trust isn't built through shipping the product and giving it to people alone. It's built through clarity, being consistent, and really creating connection as well. It's trust is earned and it's built when we're helping people to understand not just what's changing, but how this technology can help them. And that's also why it matters. And we've seen it through our own adoption programs. We've seen it with, you know, agents like the MCAP strategy agent and Agent J.AI. That is a mouthful now I think about it. These tools, you know, they don't just deliver information. They demonstrate how AI can support people in their roles, answer their questions, and really guide them through, you know, the change that is impacting them in their day-to-day. So as we wrap up, I think here's the challenge, and I think the opportunity for all of us. We all know that this technology is super exciting. We all know that there's going to be other comms conversations like this that you're going to join, and we're going to be talking about AI. And that's awesome. We also know that the workplace is changing, but the trust that these things will be adopted and they will succeed is not a given. The trust that we need to build is earned every day through the way that we communicate. And, you know, AI is going to help us. We've got great tools like Viva Engage, and you may use other tools in your organization too. But really, it is all about us, as ever, leading with empathy, speaking with clarity about this technology and what it can do, and to help our organizations as a whole to adopt this technology and embrace it with confidence. Because people are only going to embrace AI and all the great things that it can do when they trust it, and trust is what starts with us. Thanks very much.
If I wasn't standing, I would stand up already. Great job. Thank you so much, John. I feel like you just dropped a bunch of truth bombs on us and just gave us a little bit of encouragement to really kind of go back as we go forward. So really, really, really appreciate that, John, so very much. Laurel, do we have any good questions in the Q&A that we want to ask John about? Thank you so much for putting them in. We have a couple minutes. We'll do some Q&A at the end, and then we'll kind of pop off and share the last bit of resources as we close.
Yep, there was one good question about Copilot functionality in Viva Engage and how you might be able to get the most out of it in a large private community. So maybe for both of you, John and Allison.
So I think of this, Allison's definitely the expert on this. From a user perspective, the ability to jump into a community and use that Copilot button to summarize what's happened and the conversations which have happened just in that space, great. But as with, you know, wider Copilot and how it works, is the way that it surfaces results, that's just going to be in that private community if you're a member, right? So Allison, you can probably go a bit more into capability there.
Yeah, I think, you know, the public and the private, I think some of the private content is coming soon. So stay tuned. We're really working on that public content first because that's available for everyone. Private content is coming, but I think that summarization, what is coming, I love using it for what to pull out in my monthly newsletters that I send as well. So kind of like those stories and things like that. So lots more to come for all the different pieces. We also kind of engage with the different Copilot. We have like a little prompt library too. So if you're kind of stuck of like, what would I even do? Or how do I even ask? Or what's even the possibilities? We do have some really interesting ones. I was playing with it the other day and I found a couple that I was like, I would have never asked that. And I would have never known to ask it. And I got some really interesting things that kind of came as a result for that. So yeah, Great question. Thanks, John, for asking that. Another John. Lots of Johns, lots of Johns in this. So great. Any other questions? You guys are all muted and your videos are off. So if you do have a question, feel free to raise your hand to come off mute. We probably have time for one live question if anybody is brave enough. Feel free.
It's a big ask. It gets early. Oh, John, great. Spoke too soon, my friend.
We're allowing mic and camera. See if that will come off. Did it come off? There you go. Oh, we can't hear you yet. Hold on. Allow mic. Try it again. Maybe.
There we go.
There you go.
Yay. Thanks, John.
So this is specific to SharePoint agents. So I've experimented with that and I love it. And we have an IT training hub and I was trying to put all the questions about policies, procedures for that. But that's only one page of our overall IT, the room where IT happens, a little takeoff on Hamilton, of our overall SharePoint site. And when I applied the agent, it applied across the whole site rather than just the web page.
Mm. Yeah.
Is there any way to restrict it just to that information on that section of the SharePoint?
I don't know offhand. Laurel, do you know offhand?
I don't think so. I think it treats the whole site as the repository.
Okay.
So I don't think you can do that, but I'll see if I can figure that out.
Is there a way to create the agent somewhere else?
Yeah.
Not in that SharePoint site, and just give it that file, and then kind of like the user experiences, you go to the agent, which is linked on your kind of front door. And then that way you get a very clean, is looking at this one thing, but it's still within the experience that you want.
That's a great idea. I think we're restricted right now on creating agents. We're still reviewing that with legal and HR and everyone, but I'll remember that. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks. Good to see
Thanks
you,
for the
John.
question.
Other John. Okay. We'll wrap really quick and lots of great questions in the chat about when the next one is. We are going to have the next one in November because remember, October, we're actually going to be live in person in Redmond. So in Seattle, Washington at the Reagan event. So if you're joining Reagan at the Microsoft headquarters, we'd love to see you there. We're going to do a live First Friday. I don't know if anything's showing or not, but oh well. Thanks, teams.
It's them. Yeah.
So we will be live in person in October with our comms meetup, and then we will do another First Friday come November. So November 1st, the first Friday of November, we'll see you all back here. Invite your friends, invite your team. We'd love to have them there. And yeah, let's see if this will actually go. Great. And then, of course, Laurel dropped the playlist in the chat, but you can find us on YouTube for all the recordings. We'll get this recording posted in the next few hours as well, especially if you want to go back or if you want to re-listen to some things, as well as the deck and the presentation too. So lots of really good resources. If you still are looking for some resources, I know a few of you are like, where can I learn more about other things and maybe the products that we've shared? We've got some incredible kind of home bases and hubs for all of this. We shared this at the beginning, but that Microsoft Employee Comms kind of hub also has the playlist, the blog that we write about, all these upcoming events, all of the new things as well. That's at the Modern Employee Comms site. We also have incredible adoption resources. And if you're new around here, or if you missed the masterclass series we did at the beginning of the year, specifically for Viva Engage, we have incredible deep dives on all things Viva Engage. We've got decks, we've got recordings, resources, you name it. Do not go at this alone. We've got a lot of really great things for you. All right, with that, we will wrap. So good to see you all. We'll see you next time. Bye.